They say the courtroom is where the truth comes to light. But anyone who has spent time in the American justice system knows that isn't always the case. A courtroom is a theater. It is a stage where narratives battle for supremacy, and often the most convincing story wins, regardless of the facts. A restraining order is meant to be a shield. It is the legal system's final line of defense for the vulnerable, a piece of paper that carries the weight of the state, designed to keep a predator at bay. But what happens when that shield is weaponized? What happens when a request for protection is actually a calculated trap? In Judge Deborah Sterling's Florida courtroom last month, a standard hearing for a permanent protective order began like any other. You had a terrified young woman, a stoic ex-boyfriend, and a mountain of evidence that seemed to paint a clear picture of obsession and stalking. But as the proceedings dragged on, the air in the room shifted. It wasn't just a hearing. It was an unraveling. And when the truth finally exploded on the witness stand, it didn't come from the accused. The confession that silenced the room came from the one person no one suspected. Welcome back to Signal 49. Today's case looks open and shut, but I need you to listen closely, because the ending will make you question everything you think you know about who you can trust. The victim's narrative. To understand the explosion that happened in that courtroom, we first have to look at the life of Sarah Jenkins. On paper, Sarah was living every woman's worst nightmare. A 28-year-old graphic designer living in a quiet suburb, she was the picture of a normal American life until her breakup. 6 months prior, Sarah had ended a 2-year relationship with a man named Mark. According to Sarah, the breakup was difficult but necessary. But according to the affidavit she filed with the court, Mark refused to let go. The document she submitted to the court clerk was terrifying. It described a campaign of psychological terror that had escalated over months. Sarah claimed that Mark had moved from begging for a second chance to demanding one, and finally, to threatening her if she refused. She didn't just have stories. She had receipts. She presented the court with pages of printed text messages. They were vile. Messages that popped up on her phone at all hours of the night. Things like, "I know you're at that coffee shop on 3rd Street. Watch your back." Or, "You think you can leave me? You'll never be safe." But it wasn't just digital. Sarah claimed physical intimidation. She provided photos of her car tires, slashed in her own driveway. She had grainy Ring doorbell footage of a hooded figure standing on her front porch at 3 a.m., just standing there, staring at the front door. By the time Sarah walked into court that Tuesday morning, she was a wreck. She had lost 20 pounds. She had dark circles under her eyes. She testified that she was afraid to sleep, afraid to go to work, and afraid to be alone. To the judge, and to everyone in that gallery, Sarah was the perfect victim. The system is built to protect women exactly like her. Her attorney made a passionate opening statement, arguing that without a permanent restraining order, it was only a matter of time before Mark's harassment turned violent. The accused. Then there was Mark. Sitting at the defense table, Mark looked like a man who had been hit by a truck. He was bewildered. He was frustrated. And perhaps most damning of all to the casual observer, he looked angry. In the court of public opinion, anger often looks like guilt, but Mark's anger stemmed from confusion. He vehemently denied every single allegation. He claimed he hadn't seen Sarah in 4 months. He claimed he had blocked her number the day she moved out. He even told the court he was happily dating someone else and had no interest in Sarah's life. But here is the problem Mark faced. The American legal system, particularly in domestic violence courts, often operates on a better safe than sorry principle. When a woman presents texts, photos of vandalism, and video of a stalker, the burden of proof shifts heavily in the eyes of the judge. Even if Mark didn't do it, he looked like the guy who would. He fit the profile, the scorned ex-lover. Mark's lawyer, however, was a seasoned defense attorney who noticed something that everyone else missed. While Sarah's lawyer was focusing on the emotional impact of the stalking, Mark's lawyer was focused on the timeline. During the initial cross-examination, he didn't attack Sarah. He didn't call her a liar. Instead, he asked technical questions. He asked about her phone carrier. He asked about her Wi-Fi router. He asked about who else had access to her passwords. The courtroom was confused. Why was this lawyer asking about IP addresses when there were photos of slashed tires? It seemed like a desperate attempt to confuse the judge. But the attorney was laying a trap. He kept returning to one specific question. Sarah, other than you, who has unrestricted access to your digital life? Sarah answered honestly. Only my roommate. My best friend, Jennifer. The best friend. This brings us to the pivotal character in this tragedy. Jennifer. Jennifer and Sarah had been inseparable since college. When Sarah and Mark broke up, Jennifer was the rock. She moved Sarah into her apartment. She held her while she cried. She helped her change her phone number. According to Sarah's testimony, Jennifer was the only reason she was still standing. Jennifer was listed as Sarah's star witness. She was there to corroborate everything. She had seen the texts. She had heard the noises outside at night. She had comforted Sarah after the tire slashing incident. When the defense team called Jennifer to the stand, she looked nervous. She glanced between Sarah and Mark, wringing her hands. Sarah gave her a nodding smile of encouragement. The questioning began simply enough. Mark's lawyer asked Jennifer to confirm the timeline of the harassment. Jennifer recited it perfectly. She was a good witness. She described the fear in the apartment, how they would push a chair against the door at night because they were so terrified Mark was going to break in. The judge was nodding. It seemed like the final nail in Mark's coffin. But then, the tone of the cross-examination changed. Mark's lawyer walked back to his table and picked up a thick stack of documents. He didn't hand them to the judge immediately. He just held them. He approached the witness stand and asked Jennifer, Ms. Davis, you work in IT, correct? Yes, she replied. So you are familiar with how IP addresses work. You know that every device connected to a Wi-Fi network leaves a digital footprint? Jennifer hesitated. Yes, and you are aware, the lawyer continued, his voice getting louder, that when you use a spoofing app to send anonymous text messages, it masks the phone number. But it does not necessarily mask the location of the device sending it. The color drained from Jennifer's face. The lawyer then presented the evidence that flipped the entire case upside down. He hadn't just subpoenaed Mark's phone records to prove he didn't send the texts. He had subpoenaed the internet service provider for Sarah and Jennifer's apartment. He handed the logs to the judge. Your Honor, the lawyer said, the timestamp on these threatening texts, the one Sarah received at 10 o'clock p.m., 1 a.m., and 3 a.m., matches perfectly with data uploads from a device named Jen's iPhone connected to the apartment's own Wi-Fi router. The courtroom went dead silent. The texts weren't coming from Mark's apartment across town. They weren't coming from a burner phone on the street. They were coming from inside the house. The lawyer turned back to Jennifer. Did you send those threats to your best friend? Jennifer stayed silent. Did you slash the tires of the car parked in your own driveway? Jennifer looked at Sarah. Sarah was staring back, her mouth slightly open, a look of total horror dawning on her face. Remind the court, Miss Davis, the lawyer pressed. Who found the slashed tires first? Was it Sarah? Or was it you who woke her up to tell her? It was the pressure point. The narrative had collapsed. Jennifer began to cry, not the soft crying of a victim, but the heaving sobs of someone who has been caught. The confession. I didn't mean for it to go this far, Jennifer whispered. It was a confession. Under further questioning, the twisted reality came pouring out. Jennifer admitted to everything. She had downloaded an app that allowed her to send texts that appeared to be from unknown numbers. She had bought a dark hoodie and walked out the back door, only to creep around to the front to trigger the Ring camera. knowing Sarah would check the footage in the morning. She had taken a kitchen knife and destroyed Sarah's tires while Sarah was sleeping upstairs. But the question remained, why? Why would a best friend do this? The motive was even more disturbing than the crime. Jennifer wasn't trying to hurt Sarah. In her warped mind, she was trying to save her, or rather clear the path for herself. Jennifer had been secretly in love with Mark for years. She was jealous of Sarah's relationship with him. When they broke up, Jennifer thought her chance had finally come. But she noticed that Sarah was wavering. Sarah missed Mark. Sarah was thinking about calling him. Jennifer realized that as long as Sarah still loved Mark, she couldn't make her move. She needed Sarah to hate him. She needed Sarah to fear him. She decided to manufacture a monster. She thought that if she could convince Sarah that Mark was a dangerous stalker, Sarah would cut him off forever, leaving Mark vulnerable and alone, ready for Jennifer to swoop in and comfort him. It was a manipulation tactic of Machiavellian proportions. She terrorized the person she claimed to love, to steal the man she couldn't have. The conclusion: the judge immediately dismissed the restraining order against Mark with prejudice, meaning it could never be filed again. But the legal trouble was just beginning for Jennifer. Because this occurred in a courtroom, Jennifer wasn't just a bad friend. She was a criminal. She was arrested and charged with perjury for lying under oath, filing a false police report, and felony cyberstalking. The sad irony of this case is that Sarah was a victim of domestic abuse. She was being stalked. She was living in a house of horrors. But the danger wasn't the man she was fighting in court. The danger was the woman sleeping in the next room, making her coffee in the morning, and driving her to the courthouse. Sarah left the courtroom that day, not with a protective order, but with the shattering realization that her entire support system was a lie. Mark, the man she had dragged through the mud, was innocent. The emotional damage inflicted on both of them by Jennifer's scheme will likely last a lifetime. This case serves as a chilling reminder for the digital age. Evidence can be fabricated. Texts can be spoofed. And sometimes the person pointing the finger is doing so to hide the blood on their own hands. What do you think? Should Jennifer face prison time for weaponizing the justice system, or does she need psychological help? And how would you react if you found out your best friend was the one terrorizing you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This is Signal 49, where we uncover the truth behind the headlines. If you found this story compelling, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into the dark side of human nature. Stay safe and watch who you trust.